I need to put you on hold for just a minute or two.
Okay.
We're just going to play back a report where a former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was speaking, and of course it's related to the introduction of the 5,000 naira notes, in the issue of the currency restructuring that the central bank hopes to embark upon. Let's listen in. I'll be back.
Nigeria's economic potential is well recognized. This is because the real sector drives the economy. Now, according to figures from the National Bureau of Statistics, the real GDP is estimated at 6.1% for the first quarter of the year. Now, with the potential that abound in the country, many still believe that the economy can grow at a faster pace if the factors working against it are put in check. Worried by the implication of these factors on the economy, the Institute of Directors of Nigeria had a roundtable advocacy forum to discuss these challenges with the theme Cost of Doing Business in Nigeria, Issues and Way Forward. Nigeria is aiming to be one of the 20th leading economies in the world by the year 2020. And the speakers here, former President Olusegun Obasanjo and Mr. Sam Okwabunwa, believes that all these will be mere talk if these issues are not addressed.
Efficient, accessible, and simple regulations and clear proprietary rights could unleash the natural entrepreneurship of small and medium-sized firms even further. This reaffirms the known fact that unless we continue to reform our existing systems and invest massively in opening up the business environment, SMEs will have a hard time thriving, and those will have limited impact on the economy.
When you add the tax that are asked by non-state actors, like the area boys tax or money lend tax, your voice on the road tax, etc., there are just too many taxes that will pay on this country.
The Minister for Trade and Investment, Olusegun Aganga, says the government is working on it.
There's an order that came out that was signed by the president, which says that any company that spends money on producing what government should have provided, like infrastructure, like power, you can deduct 30% of the cost from the accessible income. If you employ more than 10 people every year, the cost of employment of those 10 people is deductible from the accessible income.
The bottom line of all that have been said here is the need for a more concerted effort by government, individuals as well as policymakers in ensuring that some of those trends seen to be frustrating the growth of the economy of the nation is addressed in order to make the environment more friendly for business. Ogechukwu reporting for Channels Television News.
Well, that was a report on the cost of doing business in Nigeria, and something that struck me was where let's get back to Sam Wabua, reading out the kind of taxes that people pay, business owners pay, and it sounds humorous, though it's not funny really, because when you have to calculate how much it is that you've paid at the end of the day, it affects how much profit to make at the end of a period.
Absolutely. I mean, when you say that Nigerian companies are not making enough profit, part of it is the burden, the drain, and what is more is that these taxes are required of you, especially local government taxes, in the 774 local governments, and when you remove the development areas, if you pay all the taxes in one local government, they expect you to pay in the next that you're going to pass through. Otherwise, they're going to use some obstacle to stop you from moving, or they jump into your car while you're moving and start struggling with you. It's still happening in a couple of states.
Isn't it possible for business owners to know? Because sometimes if you go to the government and you ask them, this are the levies that we're being asked to pay, and they wonder, we didn't ask you to pay this. I know there are other bodies under the government, but isn't there a way business owners can have a list of taxes that they're supposed to pay? That way to know and be very certain that they're not being charged unnecessarily.
Well, there are two sides to it. First is that every time lists are published by the Joint Tax Board, we have the list, but what is there is that that list is not followed. And if you are driving a car and you're currently stopped and prevented from moving until you are paid one tax, you have a choice. One is to stay there or find a way
you
to
mean, You mean you'll be driving on the way and you'll be asked to stop?
Yes, and to show your, especially in the local government, show your tax. Do you have those stickers? My driver has about 100 stickers for different local governments, for different taxes. So we're saying this local government should be put in check. And no individual can do it except by governmental action. Of course, the private sector organizations are seeking opportunities to enforce this from their own perspective. On top of that, new taxes are introduced, and the state governments say they have power, and they do, to legislate on taxes. But the local governments, by law, do not have power to legislate on taxes, but they do. Taxes, levies, and rates. And so everybody is bringing new one. And when you ask them, they say, well, we're trying to increase our internally generated revenue. We're being asked to increase our IGR. So they're bringing new taxes every day.
Is this without the knowledge of the state government? Do they know this is happening at the local government
Some
level?
of the state governments know. And I mean, if you take a state like Lagos, they'll be much more effective in trying to discourage that. But if you go down to some other states, you find that they are still able to get their way through and cause so much damage and impediment. And even within the concept of the approved taxes, there's also the method of collection. A company is operating in Ikeja, and it has a default or alleged default, or in Edo State. I think that the right thing is you take that organization to court. You sue that this company is defaulted in tax or rates. But in some cases, they invade your company and shut the company down. Yeah.
Are there no checks and balances? Well, because it's as if they have the field day, or they have the way, whatever they think that they want to do.
When the guys come with police and some law enforcement to come and shut your factory or to put some inconvenience or to seal it, unless you go to court, and you know how much time it takes. Somehow people have gone to court, and then the court issues an order to reopen the factory, but you have lost time, you've lost productivity, you've lost resources. I think the point we're making is that nobody in his right senses will quarrel with tax collection. Governments need tax to operate. But we're saying, first, you must be responsible in the process of collecting this tax. Two, you must also be reasonable to understand that if you're taxing one organization too frequently and on many fronts, you compromise its ability to invest more money in the economy and create more jobs. Because the question is, what are we looking for? And that's why, from what we just had, the Minister of Investment, government is now responding. It's okay if you generate additional power or utility which the country ought to provide for you. It's not tax deductible.